All right, Bobby, I appreciate you coming on the show today. First off, congratulations on winning the World Series. I mean, that's what everyone dreams about. So just congrats, man. We appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Pat. No, I appreciate that. That definitely was fun and awesome.
So I got the first question that I have for you. You've spent over 30 years in the minor leagues. This past season was your first season in the major leagues after spending over 30 years in the minor leagues as a player and as a coach. If I went to Bobby back over 30 years ago and asked, hey, it's going to take you over 30 years to get to the major leagues, do you think you still would have continued on for the next 30 years?
It's a great question because there were so many times I wanted to quit. But now that I think back, yes. I mean, maybe back then I probably would have said, oh, heck no, I got a family to support, there's no way. But what I know now, obviously with the experience and time, definitely it was worth the wait. And I think during all that time, Pat, is we get formed. God's forming ourselves. And I needed that preparation for a time like this. And if it was 5 years ago, I don't think I would have been ready. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready. So now I really feel that all that time was a process of preparation to put me for a time like this right now at this time.
Why do you think you wouldn't have been ready 5 years ago or 10 years ago?
I think maturity wise, I don't think I was ready. The way the game is going now with so much information and analytics, I wasn't prepared 5 years ago. I was barely getting there. And now I feel like just confident in myself as a coach, as a person, to be able to coach those major league players. And it's it's trust. And once they trust you, like, okay, you can tell them what you want and they'll buy in. So I just feel like maybe, 5 years ago, I wasn't there yet in terms of my maturity, in terms of the experience I have now and what I've learned in my knowledge. I don't think I was prepared as I am right now.
You've been around for a very long time, professional baseball, a lot of experience. Not every coach has tons of experience. Why do you, if you do, like I'm sure you do, because it is so important, how do you feel all your experience in professional baseball is able to help you when you're working with players? Like all the things you've learned, I assume that, you pick up little stuff along the way. Like, how do you feel that that's been able to just mold you and help you as a coach with all the experience you've had?
Well, yeah, I mean, I got experience as a player, played 12 years professionally, all in the minor leagues, over 20 as a coach now, but you see a lot of things and then you learn. That's the thing, is that we're learners. So the more experience we have, the more we learn. I mean, those coaches who just stay the same, they get weeded out, and we got to keep evolving. We got to keep learning. And I consider myself a learner. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, if you want to go with somebody that studied a lot, which is great, just got a degree in whatever. Let's say a doctor, you go to a doctor and wants to perform surgery on something on you. And you know what? It's like, hey, man, I just graduated. I've never performed surgery. This will be my first surgery. But then you have someone who didn't study, but has 20 years of doing that surgery, has been successful. I mean, who do you pick? And that's kind of like the way I look at it. It's again, knowledge with experience is incredible. That's where you get the knowledge, and then you got the experience. You're going to a very good person to get coached by. So that's how I look at the experience part of it.
Is that one of the reasons why you ended up getting your master's degree in performance psychology?
Yes, this was probably about 5 years ago. I'll give you a quick testimony. So I managed in the minor leagues a lot of years. And I had a player named Freddie Sandoval, who now is a mental skills coach, performance coach. He's a great. He played a little bit in the big leagues, and I managed him in A ball and I managed him in Double A. And once he retired, he goes, Bobby, he goes, we need to get educated. He ended up getting his education. He's from Mexico, actually, born and raised in Mexico. And he told me, Bobby, we need to get educated. So he went to get his degree. He goes, Bobby, if we don't get our degree, he goes, we're not really going anywhere. And he kind of, and I was like, no, man, all these years I got experience, that's my degree. My PhD is all the years I've had on the field. Well, it's not working that way. And so I went back and got my bachelor's, first of all, in management. So it was all on leadership. Once I got that, I go, you know what? It was in 2015. I was with the Cleveland Indians, and they're big on growth mindset. They're big on learning and you growing. And there was an opportunity to get a degree with them. And I asked them, hey, man, I'd like to get a degree. It's okay. In what? I go, I like performance psychology. Well, why? Do you want to be a mental skills coach? Again, no, I just wanted to improve me as a coach. And they went in and said, okay, let's help you out with that. So, I credit the Cleveland Indians for helping me get my degree. And I ended up getting a master's in performance psychology. And that took me to another level as a coach, because not only the mental part of it, but part of performance psychology, as we learn, is more skill learning. And that's huge, as you know, in hitting and in any action, any sport. But so that's a thing. We got to keep getting educated. And I felt like everything I learned as a player and as a coach, and now combine it with education, I felt it took me to another level.
What are some of the things that you learned that you've applied when working with hitters from getting that psychology degree?
Well, there's different things. So from the mental part of it is just a lot of how to control the thoughts. I've had coaches tell when I was playing, hey, don't think so much. Well, we can't, because I think there's like 40 to 80,000 thoughts that go through our minds a day. So there's no way someone can tell you don't think, because you're always thinking. The thing is, what is it you're thinking? That's what we got to do. And we have to be mindful. So mindfulness is something I've learned, and I try to help our guys, like, let's be mindful of your thoughts. What's going through your thoughts? So that's helped me out with it. And then on the motor skill learning part of it, it's how we learn. Like, how is it that our brain tells our body what to do? How do we learn that way to transfer that skill into a game? And I ended up learning there's a thing called block practice and random practice. So actually, I did my one of my papers on that, and on block versus random practice. And the random practice is the best type of practice to transfer your skill into the game.
Okay, this is perfect, because I want to ask you about this, being that, you're coaching in the major leagues with the best hitters in the world, bringing up block versus random practice. And then, I've had experience, and I'm sure you have too, working with younger players. Where's the line between blocked and random? Because you see, and there's certain major league players who swear by they need to get their blocked practice in. They want to slow the game down. They don't want to be challenged 24/7 in random practice. So how do you go about making sure that, certain guys get random and then certain other guys get blocked?
Well, so block is where you're doing one thing over and over again. So to me, there's both. There's a time for block. So actually, major league hitters, usually block is for novice learners. So you're trying to just get them to do something first because you don't want to all of a sudden put in chaos, because they're not ready for that. But if you're working on a certain move, that's where the block comes in. Let's say you're working on getting into his rear hip. Let's say you're working on getting his elbow underneath that bat. Whatever it is, he's losing this. So let's work on it. So we're going to do block on that, just again, the feel of that move. After you do that, once they get it, okay, now let's mix some randomness in it. Let's get some velo. Let's, even if I flip them, I do random. Like when I flip to guys, I flip to all the quadrants. I'm not flipping them right there. I'll change speeds and all that. Even though it's easy, it's still random, because I'm not throwing it to the same spot and the same speed every time, because that's the way it's going to be in the game. So, but some guys don't like that, because they don't like getting challenged, like you said. But here's the thing: there's certain guys who do really well with block. It's like they're good game players. And as you know that, there's certain guys who are not good at practice. They're bad, but they're great game players. And so they don't like getting challenged because they want to feel good. And that's fine if they have success. The bottom line is the game. The game is the bottom line. What are you doing in the game? No one's ever made it to the big leagues of being a good practice player. No one's been in the starting lineup because he was a good practice player. It's because they do well in the game. So the game is the bottom line.
100% agree with that. I think the thing that I've seen anyway is the difference between like the best of the best and then like kind of like the lower tier is how they handle failure, right? Like when
Mhm.
they struggle, how long they struggle for, because everyone will struggle, is determined by how they do accept that failure. How do you go about helping players with dealing with failure?
And so, yeah, you're always going to do through that. It's again, it's mindful. How are you looking at it? It's how you perceive it. So I don't believe in losing or failure. I believe in you either win or you learn, but you don't lose. I believe that you either have success or you learn, you don't fail. So I try to change their mindset. Okay, let's look at it differently. It's how you, if you think you're failing, you're going to be dulled down on yourself. But hey, we're learning right now. Okay, I'm glad you went through this period. I'm glad you're going through what's going on right now. What are we learning from it? Is it actual mechanical? Is it more of a mindset? Where is it? Why are we having right now not the success that you've had before? So that's where we're trying, me personally, I try to just change the way they look and perceive things to where they can calm themselves down and look at it more of the long run. Because it is, as you know, in pro ball, it's a long season. And man, there's so many ups and downs. It's just, you just got to ride the course out. But to me, it's with those players that end up having those slumps that get prolonged. I think the reason why they get prolonged is because of their mindset. It, and that's the thing, is like the longer they go, if they go really long, it's because of their mindset. It snowballs on them. So I try to help them with the way they think, the way they perceive things, so where it's not getting prolonged. That even if it does, they're still feeling good about themselves. They're coming in, hey, I'm in the process. I'm not there yet, but I'm in the process. This will pass. I gotta keep going and I gotta compete. That's another thing too, is go compete, because you're not always gonna feel good.
Yeah, one of the things that I heard, I was listening to another podcast a couple of days ago. It wasn't even in baseball. It was actually just an education podcast, and they said, fail stands for first attempt in learning, which I thought
Mhm.
was pretty cool. And
Great.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and definitely agree with that. How do you go about trying to help players? Because I'm sure you've had a lot of these guys who they overthink, they overanalyze, they're so hard on themselves. They take a couple bad swings in the cage and like their body language becomes terrible. It's like, man, like how do you go about trying to help those type of players? Because I mean, everyone has those.
Yeah, it's a lot of it has to do with their personality types too. So you got guys who they call themselves perfectionists, and we have those players and say, okay, I got a couple of those guys, and it's like, okay, hey, well, I'm a perfectionist. I'm always, want to be perfect. And then my question, I go, okay, so what do you do that's perfect? And they say nothing. Okay, so you're not a perfectionist, so you can't. Uh, so it's like you do nothing perfect. So how can you say you're a perfectionist? So let's embrace this failure. Let's embrace what your struggle. Let's embrace that, and then let's go forward from that, because it's the process. You gotta grind that out. And so those guys are like that. That's their personality, a lot of it. And they're really hard because they're so competitive. I mean, they want to win at all costs, and they want to have success. And it's, again, it's trying to make it, number one, even when they're doing something, make it fun as much as you can. Play a game in the cage with them, where they're not even thinking about something. They're just like, target practice. Okay, you know what? Let's see. Okay, now we're going to go to that target. You know what? Now we're going to do this. But there's many ways to kind of go about it. I know one of the things that I've done in the past, I got this game called Powerball, and I go, okay, I do it when our team's starting to really think too much, we're struggling, and you can just tell that they're freezing up at the plate, too tight, too much tightness. And I go, okay, so now we're gonna hit doubles and home runs from the pull gap all the way oppo, and then from righty and lefty, and doubles and home runs for points. And now they have to let it go. There's no more working on anything. It's like, okay, a doubles a point, a 2 points, excuse me, a doubles 1 point, homers two. And I've noticed that game, they love it because they're competing, but it's like, oh my God, now they're letting it go and being loose, where now it's like, I'm not thinking about it. So you kind of be creative. That's just one of the things I've done in the past. You want to be creative to where you're trying to get it to where they're not thinking so much, where it's just letting their natural talent let go. Because it's okay to pop it up. It's okay. Go be freed up, because a lot of times we can overcoach this thing, and it can snowball.
How do you go about being careful of not trying to overcoach, or being careful with the language that you use and terminology that you use with the players?
And it's the relationship. Number one, it's building the relationship with the guys is backing off, not coming up right away. When I first meet a player or a guy, a coach, if I've never met him before, I don't know him, I'm in the cage. I just start talking. How you doing, man? Getting to know them, where they're from, what they do, what they like. I don't say anything with their swing. I let them go, even if they start struggling. Hey, you'll be okay, because I want to get to know them. I want to get to know them, what they think, how, what's their learning style, how their personality, and by talking and listening, more than anything, listening. That's another thing. When I told you earlier about being prepared and experienced, I've become a better listener. And because I would always want to talk and fix things. My natural instinct is to want to fix something. And it's like, no, man, it's like listen to their heart. That's the main thing. Validate their feelings. What are they feeling? And it's valid. Okay, yeah, I would feel that way too if I were you. So once they know that you're buying in, and that you love them, and you care for them, that's when I'll start saying something. Maybe I'll suggest something, or hey, if you need something, I'm here. That's, you build a relationship first with them. And another thing too is like you said about, okay, the language. If I got 14 hitters or 12, whatever it is, the hitters I have on a team, they all speak different language. So I got to speak 12 to 14 different languages, because it's not about me. I've heard it in organizations where they say, well, we got to speak the same language. They make it about the coaches. They make it about the organization. Well, we got to speak like this. Our language is this. Well, wait a minute. It's not about our language. It's their language. How to get it through to them where they understand. It's not about me. Our hitting coordinator, Mike Brumley, he's phenomenal. He's great at that. And, he knows how to get to know a guy. I'll give you an example. Austin Riley, he's a hunter and fisherman. He loves to hunt and fish. So it's like when he's doing something, if his back elbow starts to rise too much, okay, well, so when you're going hunting, and when you hunt, you're the rifle, and let's say you're going duck hunting, all of a sudden you shoot the rifle, but you keep going this way, because if you just go there, you're going to miss it. So that's when you want to have a guy stay through the ball longer. That's how I connected with that guy, because he was a hunter. So I'm trying to use what he does. It's like, okay, so I'm like, yeah. So now he knows, like, oh, hunting. And all of a sudden, bam, like, oh my God, click. So I've got to be creative. Like, okay, what does he do? If it's a golfer, okay, you know what? How do you hit your fade? I like, oh, pretend you're hitting that fade, and all of a sudden, bam, it goes. Like, oh, things that click. Dansby Swanson is a basketball guy. He was an everything basketball high school guy. So, okay, Dansby, when you come off a pick and you're going to do a jump shot, which is your best side? Well, I was a better shooter from this side. Okay, when you're coming off the pick, get to that position, you're going to shoot. All of a sudden, like, oh, there you go. That's the athletic position. So pretend you're doing that jump shot off the pick. And then I flip them, and bam, there it goes. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, you got to get to know the player before you start, telling what's got to be my language. No, it's got to be theirs. So,
Yeah, Bobby, I'm so happy you brought that up, because you hear that all the time, right? Where it's like, there needs to be one message from top to bottom. Like, it needs to be the same, where, whatever it may be, we want launch angle or whatever it is. It's refreshing to hear you say that. And it's, I guess, in a sense, it's not surprising me. You guys just won the World Series, and you guys are kind of thinking about it, doing it more individualized for the player, and not just to say, like, hey, everyone's on the exact same page. Like, yeah, I'm sure you guys are on the same page, but you're going about it in a little bit different way.
You know what? This is what I've heard. Players, hitters that we've gotten in trades or free agents that come to us that had bad years, they come here and they get better. It's like, what happened? I mean, and quickly. It's not like, no, it's like right instantly have success. And that spreads the hitting department, with Kevin Seicher's the main hitting coach. You got Nachi Castro is this other assistant hitting coach, and myself. It's like, we work as a team, and I hear players, even their comments, I go, man, I've never been around a group of hitting guys that are like this. It's like incredible. It's refreshing. And it's like, we have a little bit of everything. We have old school, we have analytics, and we have, other things. It's like, we mix it together to where we get the best plan for that player. And And you're right. It's like, they have success. It's like, okay, because number one, it's about the player. It's not about us. So when we make it about us, then the player's not going to buy in. But they know we care about them. They know that, hey, we're doing a plan for you, specifically for you, not for us, not for, for anything, but what is going to be the best thing for you to have success. And I research things. I'm a researcher. Like I said earlier, I'm a learner. I'm a lifelong learner. So I research things. I'm always in the video room. I'm trying to get the video, see where it's at, see where the problems at, compare videos when the guy was doing well. Seeing the opposing pitcher, how they're going to attack them. Okay, you know what? This is going to be the plan for you for today because this is what you're doing. And your swing's like this right now, and it's okay. I know there's some issues, but we got to compete today. So this is going to be the plan for you for today. And they love that. So it's about the player.
What are your thoughts on, and this is something that, you've been a researcher, I'm sure you've seen with, motor learning, skill acquisition, they talk about how the tee shouldn't be utilized as much in baseball, especially at higher levels, because it's not challenging at all. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I use a tee. I mean, not with everybody, but yeah, to me, the tee is more for contact point. Okay, where's the contact point? I did the tee with a couple of our guys in the playoffs and the World Series where I put the tee deep. And the reason why is because they were really getting out front. They were pushing the hands, they're pushing the knob, and there's nothing behind the ball. I mean, they were late on the fastball, getting jammed, and so far out, see, they couldn't stop. So I wanted them to come more from behind, get some more bat light. So I put the tee really deep to get them to feel the contact point a little bit deeper. And actually, one of our guys goes opposite field right after in that same game when we first did it. So those are things that I do for the tee. It's more for contact point for me, but yeah, of course, it is blocked. The tee is blocked, but here, let me tell you about how you can use random off a tee. Is you don't let them swing at the same spot every time. So when I do tee work with guys, I put it where, okay, let's put it away. Boom, they hit it. The next one, I move it in. Boom, they hit it. Next one, I put it down and away. Boom. Now, I just keep moving the tee after every swing. It takes longer, but it's randomness because that's the way it is in the game. It's never in the same spot. And a lot of guys want to go, okay, yeah, they mishit it. No, hold on, do it again. No, let's go to the next one. Don't worry about it, because that's more to skill learning. We don't learn it in terms of the way the game is going to be, because the game is random and very difficult. In the game, you don't get another shot at that same pitch. So it's like, move on. That way your brain's like, hey, I got to make the adjustment quickly. Because if you just keep ingraining a groove swing in the same spot, all of a sudden the game, they start moving it on you, you can't adjust.
So most of the players on your guys' team, you utilize the tee that you've seen?
Yeah, again, yeah, there's guys who are tee guys. I mean, not all of them. Again, they all have their routines. They all have what works for them, what they like. Again, not all do the tee, but yeah, we got guys who use the tee, and it works for them. Again, and they're very pro. They know what they need. They know what they need to do. Especially once they get into those routines where they feel good about what they're doing. The tee, they know where to put it.
What's something that you've done your entire career and you will continue to do for the rest of your career that you believe in, and the analytics haven't changed, all your research hasn't changed it, but you will continue to do it forever as a coach?
It's building relationships. To me, it's getting to know the player. To me, it's about people. If it's one skill, then I believe that every coach, if it's one thing I say, be an expert at this, it's people skills. For me, it's the number one thing. You can know all about mechanics and swings and all of these analytics and using all of these technological tools, which there's so many out there. And yeah, they bring up numbers and what you're seeing, and it's great. I use those things. I like to read them because it's like, okay, here's where the issue's at. But the point is that people, it's a cliche, it's an old saying, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. It's like people will buy in when you know you care about them. And example, I'll ask you a question. I mean, like a teacher, when you were a kid, what teachers, the ones you remember the most? Who are the ones you remember the most? It's probably the ones that cared about you, not the ones that taught you math, that taught you how to write, there's some really good teachers at that. The ones that we remember the most are the ones who cared about us, that they made us feel so good. It's like, I remember those teachers from elementary school, like, man, Mrs. Johnson, she was, I mean, phenomenal. She always, hey, Bobby, how you doing today? Or, what, she'd come and give me a cookie, or like, she seemed, oh, you okay? You okay, Bobby? You look sad. Everything okay at home? It's like, those are the ones you remember the most, or like they'll applaud you if you did well. And I mean, that's who you remember. Even my coaches, the coaches I remember aren't the ones who taught me the most. It's the ones who made me feel the greatest, that said they believed in me, that made me feel great. Those who I remember the most. So to me, it's people skills, because again, there's a lot of good coaches that have knowledge, that know how to teach, but without the people skills, you don't get buy-in.
Yeah, for me, it was Lisa Neubauer. I don't know. I don't think she'd be listening to a baseball podcast, but if she is, Mrs. Neubauer, you were the best. Third grade. Yeah. So
Awesome. That's cool.
Two strike hitting. I want to talk about this because you see strikeouts. Everyone's mad about strikeouts across baseball at all levels. What are your thoughts on the two strike approach?
Well, to me, it all depends on the hitter and also on the pitcher. So I'll give an example. People say, okay, once you get two strikes, choke up, spread out, get up on the plate. Well, if that's for everybody, then we're cookie cutting, because everyone's different. Because there's some guys who are naturally good two strike guys, or some who are not, But to me, it depends on the pitcher. I'll give you an example. So I like to know, whenever I do the game planning for the game, I want to know what a guy does with two strikes, opposing pitcher. Does he expand? So now if I'm seeing that the guy, once he gets to two strikes, I see the heat map where he's expanding, where all the red is out of the zone. I'm like going, wait a minute, hold on. We're going to keyhole him. And sometimes I'll tell guys, hey guys, once you get two strikes, 0-2, keyhole him. It's going to be a 2-0-3-1 count, and keyhole him right down the middle on 0-2 count. And all of a sudden, before you know it, we're back on the 3-2 count, because we're keyholing. Because if I tell a guy, hey, with two strikes, expand your zone, and he's expanding, I'm striking out. It's bad. And now in the game today, if you just put a ball in play, you're out. We saw that quite a few times in the postseason against us, where teams were just trying to put balls in play, and we're getting double plays right out of the inning. And we're like going, great. It's like sometimes a strikeout's better than putting a ball play double play. I mean, that's why you can't just say, can't cookie cut and be, okay, this is what we're going to do. Everyone's different. You got to go by what's going to be the best approach with two strikes for that hitter and against that pitcher. So that's my take on it. It's individualized. You got to take the pitcher into consideration and go from there.
What about the shift? I mean, do you guys, someone's shifting on one of your hitters, is there a plan to try to combat that? Or is it, hey, just keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah, well, again, the shift is, can the guy do it? Because a lot of times guys will manipulate their swings and they were missing their pitch. They foul pitches off. And you're like, wow, man, this is a guy who's got 30 home runs. And, we end up having 4 silver sluggers yesterday, getting silver slugger awards. And, one was a pitcher. But, when you got guys who slug and you want them to manipulate the swing, the other team's going, thank you. And a lot of times you manipulate a swing and you miss your pitch, you're an out. Again, if you can do that, great. I mean, it's like, why not? It's especially with the guy in scoring position, guy at second, guy at third, you can beat that shift, great. But it is so it is so tough nowadays with the pitching, with the movement. You got guys throwing upper 90s to low hundreds with movement and the induced vertical break, and you have a horizontal break, and it's crazy. It's like, go ahead and you're trying to beat the shift. Guys would come in going, hey man, there's a big hole out there, and they go, Mags, I'm just trying to make contact. I'm like, shoot, go ahead, see if you can put a ball in play in a certain spot with that movement and that velo. It's tough. So they're right. It's hard. It's so much easier said than done. And you can practice all you want, but once you get in there, it's tough, because you're going to foul pitches off that you should crush them because you're trying to beat the shift. And if you can do it, great.
It seemed like when I was watching you guys, like you guys just the at bats that you guys would put together in the playoffs were so competitive, and like guys were just grinding out at bats. Is that just a philosophy that you would preach to them, or what? Like, how did I mean? It was different than what I saw from other teams.
I credit the our department that gives us all the information on the opposing pitchers, and we give them a plan. Like, okay, what's our approach and what's the plan against this pitcher, and not only just starter but also the relievers. How are we going to game plan them? And again, it's ingrained. It's like we're going to battle, we're going to grind at bats out, and like you said, something about competitive. That's the thing. When we were talking earlier about, hey, how about guys who are really domed up? And it's like, hey, you got to go compete, because you're not always going to have your ace swing. I mean, that's why analytics only sees numbers, but it doesn't take the human factor. Hey, did he have a good night's sleep that night? Does he have personal problems? Does he have personal issues at home? Does he have an injury? Is he sick? What all the stuff that's going on, it's like no one sees that. So you got to take the human element into it. So you're not always going to have your best swing. You got to go compete. And that's the thing. We forget about that. So when I'm in the batter's box, I'm competing. It's a pitcher against me. We're going to take our guns out, shoot them at each other, and see who's left standing. We got to go about it that way. Because in the course of a long season, you can count in your hands all the days you felt great playing that day. It doesn't happen. Very few. So you're just gonna give up that day? No, you're gonna go compete still. So getting to that competitive at bats is the biggest thing for me. You got to compete, and our guys were phenomenal with that. You're right. They grinded at bats out, took some tough pitches, fouled off tough pitches, and before you know it, man, they hit a mistake. One of the plans and approaches is, hey, fight off with two strikes, fight off the tough pitches and hit a mistake. It's like, I'm just trying to foul off those tough pitches, because if he makes a mistake with two, I'm on go.
What do you mainly focus on during the game?
What do you mean by that?
So, like, as a hitting coach, right? I mean, what are you mainly doing during the game? I mean, there's pitchers coming in. There's you got guys in the hole. Are you prepping those guys? Are you taking notes on certain things that you're seeing? I know you can't get into like exact specifics, but like what would you say the majority of the time during the game that you're focused on, you're doing?
Okay, well, me personally, I'm being National League. We pinch hit a lot, obviously, with National League. So I'm in the cage a majority of the day. I'm in there getting the pinch hitters ready. But in the cage, we have all that information. We have the report on the opposing pitcher, not only the starter, but the relievers. We have video on them. So when the guys come in, it's like, hey, you might face this pitcher right now if he comes in. Walt Weiss, our bench coach, does a great job. He's phenomenal. He prepares those guys great. He'll come down all the time to the cage, say, hey, whoever it is, hey, the pitcher spot's fifth. You might come in right here. If it's bases loaded, it might be you. If there's no one on base, it might be you. If the lefty comes in, we'll go here. If the righty stays. But you know what? Another thing too, it might be where, if our pitcher can't get out of this inning, we might double switch. So all that stuff goes in. There's so much. And so when I'm in there, I'm hearing him out, I go, okay, Walt, what do you think? Well, we're thinking this. Now what I do is like, and I got a printout of stuff on pitchers. I go, hey man, this guy's throwing this. You know what? Hitter will go, you know what? Can you set up the slider machine, because this guy's got a pretty good slider. That's his go-to pitch with the guy in scoring position. I might come up in this situation. So we put that, you know what? Give me the left-handed curveball. He's got a slow curveball. You know what? Give me some velo. He's got real, plus right on his fastball with great extension. All that. So that's how we prepare those pinch hitters. And in a game, in an in-game, same thing. Like they'll come in, they'll watch what the pitcher does. Hey, you know what? Watching the video, it was just a bad pitch. So, it's like first thing I ask is like, okay, when they ask me, hey, what'd you see? I go, okay, number one, what are you thinking about? And after that, was it a strike? Because if it wasn't a strike, now I tell them, don't come ask me what I saw if it was a bad pitch you swung at. So we're trying to stay in the zone, in our zone to hit. So that's how we prepare guys. It's like we just, we keep it simple too. It's like we're not going to give them all these just real little quick cues. Again, it goes back to getting to know the guy. It's like every guy's different. his cue can be this, his cue is that, his cue is that. It's just little quick cues to help him get back.
Is timing something that you guys talk about too, or you work with players?
Absolutely. Timing is huge. I mean, timing is, yeah. I mean, you're not on time, the swing breaks down. I mean, you're not on time. You're rushed, you're late, everything's forced. And you can be early. I mean, off time is also being early. You can be way early and it's not good. So, that's the thing is like the timing is huge and every guy's different too. Speaking on timing, again, as I've learned through all the years as a hitting coach, is like, okay, timing where is he on time? And where is he late? Is he late, getting his front foot going? Is he late getting loaded? Is he late with his hands? Is he late with the bat? Is he late getting to launch? Where is he late? Because a lot of times you can start on time with that front foot, but all of a sudden this thing's late here, or you're not getting it to where, to that fire position. And I said, we had a couple of guys who were not, I mean, they were on time. I'm watching, they're on time, but right when their front foot landed, this wasn't ready. This was off maybe that way. And it's like, we had to get him, hey man, this is where the issue's at. He goes, man, because I'm starting on time. You're starting on time, but the hands aren't ready when it's ready to fire. So it's like, where's the time? Where is he laid on? And a lot of it too can be mental too. That can hinder your timing where you're thinking way too much and everything's tight, slow. It just doesn't, or too quick. So yeah, there's so many issues involved in that, but when the timing's off, it breaks everything down.
One of the drills that one of the players I had this past year said that helped him, and I don't know if you've done this or heard about this one too, is we would set up a slider machine and he would purposely swing and miss on the slider machine and because you're so ingrained to always try to hit the ball. And so whenever you're trying to hit it, you don't know exactly where your barrel and body is at in space.
Mm-hmm.
But when you purposely try to swing and miss, you now know where everything, you kind of have a better understanding of where you're at. Your body's at in space and your barrel's at, and the contact point is too, where you're missing at. So that was something that I thought was pretty interesting. We did that a few times with this player and I thought that helped. I don't know if you had heard of that one or not before.
I haven't, but I'm all for it, man. I'm all for whatever works for a guy. And I'm glad you shared that because think about it. It was individual. It came from that player. So that worked for him.
Yeah.
And I credit you for being open to that player. It's like, oh, maybe this works for him. Because it's so individualized. Everyone learns different how they do things. And it probably worked for that guy. And so I credit you on that you were open and you let it be where he took ownership of that. Let me try this. And again, if it works, it's like, that's what we're looking for.
I think that the best ideas honestly come from the players. Like I've learned so much just from listening, interacting, like overhearing their conversations with each other about hitting from them. Like I think we always talk about continued education. I think for me, the biggest part's probably just from the players.
You hit it right on the nose. I tell the players that, I go, guys, I learned from you guys. We're learning from you because you're the ones doing it. That's how we learn. We're learning from your swing, what you're talking about, what you're thinking. It's like, oh, and I write my notes down. I had to write a paper in my master's program on confidence. I was with the Indians at the time. And so I went around a couple of the guys in big league camp and I interviewed him. I said, hey, I'm writing a paper on this. And they go, oh yeah, Max, what do you, can you give me a couple minutes? Yeah. So I just wanted to get intake on like confidence. So I went around and I asked Yonder Alonso, he was with us. I said, hey, Yonder, how do you get when you start struggling, when you feel your confidence now, how do you do it to get it back? He goes, well, I prepare. He goes, so I get my confidence from my preparation. I go, okay, good. So I wrote that down. And then I went to Roberto Perez, who's catching, and he goes, Max, he was when I start feeling my confidence down, he goes, I was a late round pick. I was never a prospect. He goes, so I have a chip on my shoulder. He goes, so when I start feeling like my confidence, I'm going to prove to them. So it was like, so he has that, like, okay, I wrote that. And then the last guy I talked to was Francisco Lindor. I said, Frankie, when you start losing your confidence, what do you do? And he goes, Max, he goes, when I start feeling like that, he goes, when I'm on the on deck circle, I replay all the at bats in which the fans went, wow. So I'm like, wow. So here you got I had even a couple other guys, but those three guys came to mind for what they said, and he had three different answers. So what's not one way. It's like, wow, look how each guy gets their confidence back. And so I wrote that, I wrote all those notes down because I'm learning from them. It's like, this is who we're learning from. I asked Will Smith after we won the World Series and our closer, and he was inconsistent a little bit during the season. He was lights out in the postseason. And I had Will Smith in Double A. I managed him in Double A with the Angels in Arkansas. So we had a relationship there. I go, Will, man, I just want to ask a question. I go, what was it? What turned it around for you? Because you were lights out. I just want to know. And again, this is a learning for me. I want to know, what was it? Especially being into mental skills and performance psychology. I'm like, what is it? And he goes, Max, I got to a point where I had enough. I said, that's it. I've had enough. Wow. So wrote that down. Those are all things that I keep for notes for me to help players. It's like, I'm learning from them. And you said on those, we learn from the players. What's going through the mind? What are they thinking? What do they feel? It's like, it's them. They're the ones who are doing it. So you're right. We learn from the players.
Bobby, I know you got a few minutes left. I want to be respectful of your time. We had some people actually, because I announced that you were coming on the podcast, send some questions in for you. And one of them was Albie's bat size and weight. And he's like, I guess there was a big thing, a big talk about a certain bat size that he was using throughout the season. Was there any talk about that? Like, is there a reason he uses the bat weight and size and length that he does?
Yeah, it's a 34.5-inch. I believe it's 32 ounces or 32.5, whatever it is. It's 34.5. At times he's used the 35, but it's 34.5. He creates great leverage. He's a small guy, but it's so much leverage he creates. And since he's very handsy, that helps him control it. So the heavier the bat, the bigger the bat controls being a guy that's really, really handsy. And that's why he uses. And I'll tell you what, man, getting to that, when my last years I played, I went to a 35-inch bat. I never used one before. And I had this one veteran player who played in the big leagues tell me, hey, man, use a bigger bat. I go, no way. And I tried to use a 35-inch. I go, no way. So the last years I played, I went to a 35-inch bat and I had the two best seasons of my career. I'm going, why didn't I do that earlier? It just controlled my swing. I was a handsy guy a little bit, controlled me, had good leverage. I felt like I had a lot more plate coverage so I can back off the plate more. I didn't have to worry about anything in. But it all depends on the player too. Like in here, it's like, this feels good because there's some Hall of Famers use 33-inch bats, 33.5 that were power guys. And so he uses a 34.5.
That's crazy. Just with his size, using a 34.5, 35. I appreciate that insight though on yourself and talking about how handsy, which it makes sense. The heavier the bat, maybe the better the sequence that they're in. Next one was Freddie. It seemed there were some comments made about Freddie going back to, hitting it to opposite field in batting practice, letting the ball travel. Did he get away from that? And is that why he made an emphasis on getting back to it?
No, he didn't get away from that. He's always done that. Freddie has not changed. I've known him for 3 years now. He has not changed. He hits his batting practice are probably boring. People don't want to see it because all he does is hit nothing but line drives to the shortstop. It's just one after another. He doesn't pull it. He doesn't hit in the air. Everything's to the shortstop, and it's easy too. It's not. He doesn't try to. It's like effortless. They come off the bat easy, and he does that in his cage work. He doesn't pull anything in the cage, and no, he never got away from that. When he started slumping, there's a couple of things. He was losing his barrel a little bit, and he knew it. He just couldn't get back. We did a couple of drills, to help him get back to that. But he was a silver slugger, so this guy had a great year. And again, his slumps don't get prolonged too much. He's an incredible talent, but no, he didn't get away from it.
How do you help a young hitter, maybe not necessarily in the major leagues, but in the minor leagues, find their own routine, right? You talk about Freddie never pulling the ball, always hitting it oppo. How do you help someone find a routine like that that's going to work for them?
Well, again, it's individually based, and it's like, okay, especially when they're young, it's like I try to get them. If you don't want to take away their personality and you don't want to take away what they do well, like I said earlier, we tend to overcoach it, and I'm at fault with that. I'll be the first one to admit I've overcoached a lot. But you got back off, okay, what can he do? And let them kind of figure it out at times. And what can he do well? So that's why we gotta get to know him. Like, what is it that he does well? And we want him to keep that. Right away, we start changing guys like, oh, he'll never hit the big leagues this way. Well, we don't know that. I mean, there's so many different types of swings and hitters. But the point is what you do is like, okay, you let them figure out, okay, what works for them. Give them a couple of drills that can help them with their moves, whatever it is that they're doing, but without taking away what they do well and their personality. So you've got, to me, I'm big on routines. I'm big on that. But at the same time, they have to know how to compete when their routines aren't there. What I mean by that, there's going to be rainouts. There's going to be when we're on the road and show and go. Like, oh my God, all of a sudden, if they have a routine that they do this, all of a sudden, and there's only one cage and you got 10 guys have to go before the game, you got to be quick. And it's like, you got to know how to still go compete when your routine gets screwed up. So that's another thing. That's the mental part. That's where you got to, know how to do that. But again, it's like you just try to see what works for them and give them a routine that's not long and it works for them, that can help them out.
I love how you continually emphasize their own personality. I think that's, you don't hear that a lot. You hear about, individual this or that, but I really like how you keep referencing their own personality. Last question. What was the one big takeaway that, your first season in the major leagues, a lot of years in professional baseball, what's the one thing that you learned this past year in the major leagues that maybe you haven't prior in all 30 plus years in the minors?
There's two things. First of all, is they're all individuals and they're human beings. So they all have issues. They're all going to go through slumps. They need coaching. And that's the thing, is that they do need coaching. And coaching, to me, it involves a lot of things. It's not just teaching them swings or moves, but coaching can be staying silent. Coaching can be just patting them on the back. Coaching can be telling them something. It can be showing them something. I mean, there's so many ways to coach a guy, but you got to know the guy. That's the main thing, is get to know the player. So they're human beings, man, and they all need coaching. They all do, and they want it. It's like, hey, man, appreciate what you said or whatever. And you got to have feel. That's another thing that I told you about. I wasn't ready 5 years ago. My experience now, you got to have feel. You got to have wisdom. You got to have discernment to know when to say it and what to say. Because if you say it at the wrong time, even though it's right, it's not going to work. And if it's at the right time, it's the wrong thing, it's not going to work. So you got to have wisdom. And the next thing that I learned this year was game planning. The game planning is huge as a hitting coach, and I learned a lot. Again, I've been around, Kevin Seitzer, been around Jose Castro Nachi, and our front office analytic department that gives us the information. I learned a lot in terms of the game planning, and that's what helped us in the postseason, especially in the World Series. I felt the way we game planned against Houston, we went to another level, and people saw it. People were like, oh, wow, you guys were just spitting on that. You guys weren't chasing. God, these are guys who have high chase rates that they get chased on certain pitches, and we were zoning them up and spitting on that. It was because of the game planning, and we learned a lot. So that's where I learned. If it's something I learned a lot from, was the game planning.
Awesome, Bobby. I appreciate it so much, man. A lot of coaches listening to this, younger coaches, professional, college, high school, youth. You didn't have to do this. You just got done it with a long season, 162 plus the playoffs and the World Series. You have a family. So I personally appreciate it. I know everyone listening to this does. So I thank you again for coming on and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And I know it's all good. We're all learners. And, I'll leave it with this quote, Zig Ziglar. Again, I love reading and I like researching, but Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people get what they want, you will eventually get what you want. And I'm just here to help out and help anyone else and get to where they want to be.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, Pat. Thank you.